Hello again and welcome to another episode of I Want to Talk About This Album. And today I went back into the Dan Bowski I Want to Talk About This Album archives, and I discovered that the last AC/DC episode I did was episode 180, all the way back on August 27th, 2024. That's almost exactly a year ago. So it's been some time since I've done AC/DC, and I've got a few more AC/DC records at some point that I will talk about. This episode is kind of about a year in the making. You know this guy Mike Pratt. He watches my channel. Thank you, Mike. And sometimes he leaves comments in the comment section down below, and often very good comments. So I don't like when he talks about how great the Peter Criss 1978 solo album is, but other than that, I do appreciate his comments. And he asked me once, some time ago, I can't remember what his question was. Something like, was there ever an episode I did that I didn't want to? I don't know, something like that. And I had said at the time, Mike, I don't know if you remember, that there was once an episode that I was about to do. I was all ready to do. I had my camera set up in the studio when I lived at my other house, and I was all ready to go. And I was standing there, and I aborted at the last second. I called an audible and just called it off. I don't know if I chickened out or I just lost my mojo, lost my whatever. And that was this album. This was AC/DC Powerage, and I'll talk about that album title in a few seconds. And I kept putting it off, and then I kind of forgot about it, and I've forgotten about it for quite some time. But AC/DC is kind of back in my radar now, which is why I want to talk about them. And again, before I get to the album title of this one, and I'll show it. There it is. This is coming up. But the reason that AC/DC is back on my radar, I was again going to do this episode about a month ago, because AC/DC announced a new tour. They're playing here in Mexico City 3 nights, and I did get tickets to go see them. I'm going to the second night, and so that kind of brought AC/DC back to my mind. I thought, oh yeah, I need to go back and do a few AC/DC episodes, and I thought I would start with this one. I've done I checked as I said, the archives. I've done 3 Brian Johnson episodes, Back in Black, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, and Flick Oh the Switch, and 3 Bon Scott albums, High Voltage, 30 Deeds, Thunder Chief, and what was the other one? Let There Be Rock. So today I'm going to do this one. But yeah, about the AC/DC concert coming up, I have kind of mixed feelings about that. First, I've never seen AC/DC. They're one of the only bands that I've never. There are lots of bands I haven't seen, but bands that I like that I've never seen. AC/DC is probably at the top of the list. And so they announced this tour, I guess it was about a month ago, early November, I think it was. And I was very excited. I thought, I'm finally going to get a chance to see AC/DC. But my feelings were mixed, because I think AC/DC, like a lot of these bands of their era, and possibly even after their era, they're not, obviously they're not what they were in their prime. And Metallica, I still love Metallica. They're not as good as they were. No band is as good now as they were in their prime. That's such bullshit when people say, oh, Metallica is better than ever. No, they're not. They're still very good. I will always see Metallica, but no, they are not better than ever. Iron Maiden is not better than ever. It's impossible. So in the words of Michael Wilbon, shut up. But on the one hand, let's say this hand, I was very excited to see AC/DC. But on this hand, I thought, man, they're not. I've seen videos of them in the last year and a half. They took a long break, and they're just not that good. I guess the first show they did in a long time was they played at that one in California, in Indigo, that big 3-day festival. There was Metallica, Judas Priest, AC/DC, I can't remember who else, Tool, Guns N' Roses, and that was the first AC/DC show in about 6 years or something. And they weren't very good. They just didn't. And I know they're old. I understand that. I'm not talking about the fact they're old. They just seem, especially Angus Young, seems quite low energy, and I don't expect him to be as he was in the 70s, or even as he was 10 years ago. But that show and the other ones I've seen in more recent times, they toured this summer, just not that good. But good enough that I will go. And yeah, I don't care too much. I know a lot of people are really big on original members. I don't really care too much about that. I care about the good members. Nico McBrain, Bruce Dickinson even, Yannick Gers. I love Iron Maiden. They're not original members of Iron Maiden, but this is arguably, well, before Simon Dawson replaced Nico McBrain last year, it's arguably the best Maiden lineup ever. It's the classic lineup from, let's say, Peace of Mind through the time Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith left. Well, separately they left on Tuesday after a couple of separate albums. You get the idea. But yeah, AC/DC, it's really just Angus and Brian. And I don't even know. I think it's Angus's cousin. Who is it that plays rhythm guitar in place of Malcolm in Malcolm's stead? It's one of the young. George, is it George Young? One of the cousins? I don't know. And I don't even know who plays drums or bass. And does it really matter for AC/DC? I think most people just care about Angus Young and to a lesser extent Brian Johnson. But yeah, so I'm kind of, I bought tickets with trepidation, possibly even skepticism or apprehension. And they were expensive too, man. I bought the cheapest tickets, as I always do, and they were the most expensive tickets by far that I've ever bought. Just terrible prices. To think that they're playing 3 nights here in a stadium, 50 to 60,000 people a night, and they're charging horrible prices for a band that is I don't know if they're maybe more than a shell of what they used to be, but, and people will say, well, supply and demand. Yeah, I know. Just stop it. Anyway, so that purchase of the AC/DC ticket has kind of motivated me to finally get back and talk about an AC/DC album again, which I'm going to do. So I'll talk about this now. So this is, I always talk, I keep talking when I bend down. What is this album called? I've always thought of it as Powerage, like wattage and mileage and things like that. But I've heard in somewhat recent years people, and I don't think I've ever said the name of this album out loud really too much. I've heard people call it Powerage, which to me doesn't really make sense. It's not like the age, or maybe it is, like the Bronze Age, the Ice Age, the Stone Age. Is that the age of power, the Power Age? I don't know. I thought that sounded very queer when I first heard that, and sounded incorrect. I still think it sounds incorrect. I like Powerage. Sorry, see, I'm doing it wrong. Powerage, like mileage, wattage, but some people say Powerage. If you feel like it, you can leave a comment in the comment section down below and tell me what you call it. Is it Power Age, like the age of power? Or is it Powerage as in wattage? That's what I think it is. So, since I haven't done an AC/DC episode for quite some time, I will remind everybody my history with AC/DC. One of the first bands I ever got into, possibly the first after Kiss. I got Back in Black around 1980 and loved it. I loved For Those About to Rock. Flick of the Switch was the last thing I bought until their album that came out about more than 2 years ago. 3 years ago, Power Up. Didn't buy Fly on the Wall or anything that came after that. And I always hated the Bon Scott era. I was dumb. I was a teenager. I guess I was a dumb teenager, because now I think the Bon Scott era overall surpasses the Brian Johnson era for sure. If I could, divide their catalog into two and only have one Brian Johnson era or Bon Scott era, I would clearly take the Bon Scott era. It took me years and years to realize nothing against Brian Johnson, but how much more I prefer Bon Scott. All right. So this is a fucking awesome album, as the other ones were too, as I discovered as I went through them. High Voltage and 30 Deeds Under, Cheap and Even, Jailbreak, and this one and Highway to Hell, and did I miss something? Let There Be Rock. Incredible albums. Hard to pick a favorite. But this is just, it's a great album. I know it's cited by many people as being their favorite AC/DC album. I'm not sure if I could go that far, but I do love it. It's just an incredible album. It's got maybe more than any other album. It's got, I don't really like the AC/DC songs, those kind of slow bluesy, like I don't really like the Jack or Can I Sit Next to You, Girl? What else is like that? Those kind of slow Ride On. That's a little bit different. Yeah, those I like the AC/DC ones that are, not necessarily fast, but just full of power and energy. And I would say this album, almost every single song has that AC/DC groove or rhythm or power, energy that I love. Maybe there's one song that doesn't have it. And this one, I have learned it well enough. I was kind of on the fence about this. Maybe this is why I backed out like a year ago. I think I know it well enough that I can do it without notes. I have no notes for this album, but I don't know it well enough like I know all the Kiss albums that I've done, and Motorhead and Iron Maiden and Metallica and Slayer and so many other bands. But I'm going to try to get through this note-free, all right? And I will start now with the track by track. And the first song, here's, if you want to see what the record looks like, they have pretty decent packaging, just kind of like each record has kind of like a biography and just the black vinyl with the label, all right? So the first song is Rock and Roll Damnation. Man, it's a rock and roll damnation. And this has, right off the bat, it has that great, it's impossible, I think, to listen to AC/DC, especially these songs or this album, without doing this, full-on headbanging, but without, and by the way, you can't see, but I'm kind of tapping my foot here or my heel, and kind of, if not outright headbanging, at least bobbing your head. Impossible. They just have that almost every song, starting with Rock and Roll Damnation. I love also in this one, I guess it sounds to me like there's some kind of shakers in there. I don't know if they're, I don't know what they are, but it's not a tambourine, but there's some kind of percussive element there, more than just the drums, kind of driving that song. I love it. Next is Down Payment Blues. Now, I hadn't heard this record until for the first time. I probably heard this whole record 5 years ago, maybe. I don't know, maybe 6, something like that. 7, I don't know. And when I first heard Down Payment Blues, I thought, oh my God, this sounds exactly like another record that I haven't talked about, and maybe I should. There was a great band in the early 90s called the Four Horsemen, and they had an album called Nobody Said It Was Easy, and there's a song on there called Rockin' Is My Business, and Business Is Good. And I think they pretty much took inspiration from Down Payment Blues here, and this is and I'm starting to realize Bon Scott had a lot of lyrics about being poor. I think he talks about this one. I think it's kind of a sad song. We learned that Bon Scott is he's not a responsible pet owner. He said he can't even afford to feed his cat in Down Payment Blues. But that's another one. It's got that great AC/DC rhythm or groove or beat to it. It's amazing. Next is, I feel like I'm blowing this episode already. I'm just going to say the same thing about every song. Next is Give Me a Bullet, Give Me a Bullet to Bite On, Give Me a Bullet to Bite On. That's another one that's got that great, I'll say it again, rhythm, or they're locked in, I think AC/DC is, on Give Me a Bullet. The next one, so this would be the last song on side one. This is called Riff Raff, and I do believe, I'm putting the record down because I'm going to say something very dramatic and strong. I do believe that Riff Raff is my favorite AC/DC favorite AC/DC song, not just on this album, not just of the Bon Scott era, but possibly in the entire AC/DC pretty vast catalog. Riff Raff might be the best. Oh my God, just an incredible song. That, I'll say it again, for the, is that 3 songs? How many songs am I into? 4 songs in a row. That it's got that irresistible, it causes that irresistible urge to, like Casey and the Sunshine Band, get up and boogie, something like that. Unbelievable song Riff Raff is. And I first heard about this when Guns N' Roses was covering it in, were they doing it as late as the 80s? Maybe it was in the 90s after the Use Your Illusion albums came out. That was how I first heard about Riff Raff, and didn't really care about it or pay attention to it back then. But oh my God, Riff Raff. Yeah, it's and also I guess I like that they mentioned Mexico. It ain't humid, but it sure is hot. down in Mexico, which is true. It's because it's pretty hot right now, but it's actually quite dry. We haven't had rain. For a weather report, we haven't had rain since October 13th. Isn't that interesting? So yeah, Riff Raff, I think my favorite song. Now the next song, if you flip the record over, it's side 2. I'm going to contradict myself because there's maybe a song that I like better than Riff Raff, and that is Sin City. I've known about this song. This is one of the rare Bon Scott era songs that I've known about for a long, long time. I think I taped this from the radio back in the 80s for sure, when I used to listen to these midnight metal machine power hour kind of radio shows, and I did know Sin City back then. And I don't know. Does it really matter if I like Sin City or Riff Raff better? I don't know, but they're very, very close. So to think that those two are on the same album and back to back, if you flip the record over, Sin City is just incredible. It's just so powerful. Can I feel like I have to quote some kind of lyrics. What's the opening lyric of Sin City? Diamonds and dust. Dun, 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 dun. Poor man last, rich man first. Another one about being poor. Bon Scott likes to talk about the plight of the poor man. Poor man last, rich man first. Lamborghinis, caviar, Lamborghinis, Shangri-La. Oh yeah, man, Sin City. And Twisted Sister did a cover of that, which is excellent. I think Twisted Sister's version of this is very, very good. Well done. Next. I don't feel, I'm not feeling the energy from myself today. Are you getting that from me? I don't feel like my energy level is matching that of the AC/DC songs contained on this record, Powerage, or possibly Powerage. Next is What's Next to the Moon. It's a love that I want. This is, I will mention, I've realized this is the second album I've talked about that references Casey Jones. If you know what the other album that I talked about in an episode of I Want to Talk About This Album, if you know what album had a reference to Casey Jones, you can leave a comment in the comment section down below. And I mean, if you know the album, obviously you know the song, so whatever you want to do. But yeah, What's Next to the Moon, it's also got that AC/DC rhythm to it. Next is this is my least favorite on the album. This is maybe the one that doesn't have that AC/DC rhythm that I've mentioned, I think, at least twice. It's Gone Shootin', and it's okay. I don't dislike it, but it's clearly for me my least favorite on this album. Next is Up to My Neck in You. Possibly, man, aside from Riff Raff and Sin City, which are possibly my two favorite AC/DC songs. Rock and Roll Damnation, Down Payment Blues, Up to My Neck in You, and maybe the next song are amongst my favorites. Just that, I don't want to say it again. I don't like repeating myself, but it's hard not to, because AC/DC repeats themselves. I've been up to my neck. I've been up to my neck in pleasure, up to my neck in pain. High energy, AC/DC style. They say rock and roll. To me, it was heavy metal. When AC/DC, when I first started listening to AC/DC in 1980, they were a heavy metal band, or they were called heavy metal. And the last song on this episode, or on this album, and thankfully for this episode, because as I said, I feel like I'm not bringing it today. Maybe no, I won't say that. Anyway, the last song is Two-Faced Woman with Your Two-Faced Lies. This is Kicked in the Teeth. Kicked in the Teeth again. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. Total high energy rock and roll. Big surprise there. That's all. I feel like I came up here to the roof and disappointed all of you. Maybe this is why I've only done 2 episodes in the last month of I Want to Talk About This album. I'm not really feeling it. I feel like I am, and then when I start doing it, I kind of lose my energy level goes down. All right, that's enough about that. I guess I'll wrap it up, and there will be more AC/DC coming up in the next couple of months before I see them. They're playing here in, God, I can't even remember the date, April something. It's April 4th or 11th or 15th, something like that. I don't know. So until then, this is AC/DC, the dually named, whatever you like, Powerage, or I like to say Powerage. See ya. August 27th, what did I say?